Okay, I call the meeting of the Nantucket Cemetery Commission to order for Wednesday, May 14th. I declare we have a quorum present and we can do our agenda.
Right.
So moving right to the agenda, public comment.
We don't see anybody from the public on Zoom.
Okay. Approval of minutes from April 9th, our last meeting. Those minutes were circulated.
I move we accept the minutes.
And I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor, roll call vote. Fran,
I,
Barbara,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Those minutes are approved. Pulpus Cemetery. A couple of things about Pulpus. We have an interment, actually we have two interments that are coming up. One for Higby Phillips. It's going to be Sunday, June 15th at 11 o'clock. And then there'll be.
I'm going to interrupt you for a minute.
Sure.
Phillips can be spelled many ways.
I have Phillips.
Thank you. Sunday, June 15th. I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay. And then we have a request for a monument for Tom Kuhn in lot H29. He and Bert Cosgrove were a couple. And I got a call from Bert, and he said that Tom had passed, and now he. So I told him he needed to get an order of interment in to us.
so we don't have a date for that.
We don't have a date for that one yet, but it'll be sometime in June, he said. But
You did say monument approval, but it will also include an interment.
right now, with the monument approval, what he's asking for, I told him about the stones needed to be either 12 by 18 or 12 by 24. They want to do a 12 by 24, but they wanted to do a photograph on the monument. And I said, I told them, as far as I'm concerned, if you can do it, but he sent me a photo of what they had designed. If I can find it on my phone here.
I've seen those photo monuments in other cemeteries. It's been going on for some time, I think.
Yeah,
It would
exactly.
appear to be prominent in Islamic cemeteries, particularly if it's a martyr.
I was assuming that Scotty would be here because he has a copy of it.
I'm usually as laid back as it comes, but I think we need to be official on this one.
Yeah.
In other words, to have an appropriate proposal.
Right, there's nothing in our regulations against it, is it? There is. Okay. I just asked if something in our regulation prohibit a photo, and Lisa.
No, not prohibit.
Oh.
Require an
Oh,
application.
obviously we require that.
Yeah, and I told Bart Cosgrove, no.
Tar.
Yeah, I told Bart that he would need to submit a lot application, or not lot, the monument application and the order of interment. And he, in fact, I think I called Carrie and had her send him the forms.
But he's going to want this monument at the time of the interment or later?
Well,
Our next meeting is June 11th, so
yeah.
you have to tell him that he's missed the deadline for this meeting, I would think. And I'm sure he can push it till the middle.
Scotty knows about it and he has the picture, right?
Yes, Scotty knows about it. He has the picture. And I can't find it.
Okay,
So if we come in for the meeting on the 11th, Scotty will be prepared to show it to us.
Yes. I'm sorry. And if I can find it, I will email it to you.
Okay.
But there still has to be the form filled out.
Yeah, they still have to get
Okay.
the form.
All right, then we don't need to see
So
it now.
if they haven't submitted the form for this meeting, then
Right,
it's a
right, we don't need to
report.
see
Okay,
it.
all right.
so Alan, I've heard two potential applications. One is the annulment for Higby Phillips
Yes,
on Sunday, June 15th,
yes.
and that's going to be where? Palpas, obviously.
That's Pulpus, right.
Lot. Oh, that's the agenda that's flying.
Had cataract surgery yesterday. And,
Oh, God.
Wow,
Show me the look.
and you recovered, that's amazing.
yeah.
He's not wearing a little plastic eye protector.
Yeah.
He's
I
really-
wore it home.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
I had
good.
to sleep with it last night and
Yeah.
couldn't wait to get rid of it this morning.
Right.
See if you
Sure.
can-
Well, I'm trying to find that. Let me bring up, I went out to Pulpus actually a couple of times in the last few days. Because Ellen had alerted me that the maple tree that had been donated had actually survived and was, so I went out and I fed it and I watered it. But, you know, the strings and the flags are still there. We sort of planned to get that done a couple of months ago, I think. And I really think that by this enrollment on June 15th,
Yeah.
it would be really good if the flags and the strings were gone.
You're talking about the surveyor's flags and,
Yeah.
and not legionnaires. Okay.
No, the strings line out
E20.
the plots.
E20.
Oh, B20?
E.
He is in every man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Oh, there it is.
I know that Scotty and Alan had plans before our last meeting, and it hadn't got done, and now it hasn't gotten done now. But I really think it would be a courtesy to those people being interned in June if we could get rid of the flags and the strings on the ground.
So Fran, I think you're absolutely in order, because if you look at agenda item 4, it talks about the proposal for a fence, removal of brush to new fence, red maple bloom.
Yeah. Right, I wanted to, I sort of condensed all that for Pulpus.
Okay,
Agenda.
Sean, could you ask our colleagues here,
Work order's already in. And to contact Alan about where on the north property line for the brush cutting and the fence. And so-
Oh, yes, right, I'm sorry, right, at Pulpus. What I'm looking for, what I wanted to suggest here was the north boundary, that's the one that faces out to the woodlands. To put a split rail fence along that side.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
I think I just heard that it's gonna happen.
Yes, the work
The
order's in.
work order's in, and
Oh,
I've
it
asked,
is?
Right,
I've asked
right,
Nikki to reach
right.
out to you,
Oh, that was.
so they can meet you up there, so you can show them exactly the corners of the bounds.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
to skip ahead, to historic color cemetery, the work order is in for the south fence
Well,
as well.
gee, I just waved a
See,
magic
it gets
wand and
done.
it's- you put it in the agenda and there it is.
So we're done with Opus.
Well, yeah. So when I was out in Culpus, and I do stop by there fairly often because I'm going out to the end of the island, I always stop to take a look at the cemetery. And when I was out there the other day, or this was just a couple of weeks ago, I always go around the whole cemetery to see what we might be doing to improve the cemetery. And that's where the idea of the split rail fence along that one came. And it occurred to me because they're doing such a good job of mowing the cemeteries. By the way, when I came by Quaker Cemetery, I've been freshly mowed. It's beautiful. I mean, those guys do an incredible job. They really do. But so that would allow the maintenance, the guys who were maintaining it to mow up to that fence line rather than have that jagged line down there. The other
Which would get
question,
rid of the flags.
Well, I certainly hope so. You're gonna
Sure they
have to take the flags up before they mow.
yeah, no, exactly. That's one of the other things that's been sort of a long-standing project, putting in the remaining cemetery markers, the corner markers.
So you and Scotty were going to do it together.
Right, and that just hasn't worked to do that. I did put the original flags in. I measured across because I was trying to get a sense of the hill. And in fact, I invited Lee out to, we went out and took a look, this was a couple of months ago. And Lee said that he felt that the topography was okay to do burials out there.
Yeah, particularly for inurnments and stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. So what remains to be done is, I say, I put out the flags across the top, going from number 29 to 30, whatever it is that to complete that row. And then my next plan was to go down, measure to get the square, and then to go through and measure this way and put the little flags in. The problem that I have is that because those discs have 4 different numbers, the letter number combinations on them, I have a very difficult time for some reason trying to figure out which ones go on which.
But Scotty seemed to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scotty was good.
So, it'll happen. You'll have to just get with Scotty.
Right.
But it would be really good if it would happen before June 15.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've been trying to get this done for ages because this is sort of the last.
But
Yeah.
speaking of mowing, when I went out to Purpose to attend to the red maple tree, I also stopped at the Quasar Island burial ground.
Mhm,
And
me
when
too.
I stopped there, it hasn't been mowed and there's sort of knee-high grass.
Yeah.
And the cedar corner posts, I thought we were going to replace those. Anyway, they're pretty deteriorated.
They are. I
Yeah.
know.
Just
I
bring that up.
was.
It looked unkempt.
I'm putting that down as a commissioner comment.
Yeah.
But another work order.
Yeah, that's one where in the past, I believe that
It was Conservation Foundation had been mowing it mainly because when we discovered that there was a cemetery there. And I told the Conservation Foundation and they said, oh, really? And I pointed out to them that according to the state regulations, if they own the cemetery, they have a responsibility to maintain it. So, which is why when I was the ranger, I went in there and I mowed it.
Yes.
When I retired as ranger, the person who followed me, I had also told to, the cemetery needed to be mowed. But since then, they've gone through several different
So what do we do?
replacements.
So what do we do?
Well, so, my thought was that I should, I can, because I have a connection to the foundation. So I should talk to the maintenance supervisor at the foundation and say, hey, would you go in and at least mow the
Are they
cemetery?
responsible for those corner cedar posts as well? Or are we-
Well,
It's difficult to say.
yes, theoretically, you would think that they would want to take responsibility for those. But what we're talking about is a split rail,
Yeah,
4 corners.
right. So when you talk to them, can you ask them if they will replace
will.
those 4 corners? And then we'll know.
By the way, the Quaker ladies or Bluets were just carpeting the cemetery. They looked really lovely.
With the little buttercups.
No,
The little white flowers with yellow centers.
Oh, I saw buttercups.
Oh, the.
Well, there's a kind of flower that on the mainland is blue and they're called Bluets.
Oh,
For
yeah,
some
those are
reasons
the
on
Quaker ladies.
Nantucket, they're white and they're called Quaker ladies. And it was just carpeted with them when I went there.
not
It's
at
very
Quaker,
pretty.
but at the Fulvis. I mean, the Quays
At
Asylum.
Quays,
Right.
yeah, it was just.
Oh, at
lovely.
Quays.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, because at Quaker, when I drove past, I saw the little yellow flowers,
Yeah.
which I, out of innocence, called buttercups.
They are buttercups, I'm sure.
So I think we're done with Fulvis, yeah?
No,
We're not?
No.
What we missed?
I'm gonna ask, Bob.
Yes, sir.
I don't know who.
Oh, I'm
This is
sorry.
Robert Bistrowski.
Yeah, I'm the real estate specialist with Tracy.
Working with Tracy.
Okay. When we start doing this fencing work and mowing up to the existing fence, the neighbors are gonna get bent out of shape. But we were gonna do,
So don't take down the flags.
we were gonna do a license for them for their encroachment into the cemetery.
Okay.
And that needs to be completed.
Well, is there, so,
Ask Tracy, because she's been working with town council, who has it low on her list.
okay.
But
So
there is a proposal for a license to permit an encroachment into the town cemetery. In the meantime, they've done some plantings on our side of the fence, and they're just gonna get mowed down.
Well, wait a minute, we're gonna talk about that. The,
the people or the planting?
The plantings.
It's been for years.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, okay, so should, and I understand aesthetically what you're saying, but should we wait to take down things that are
No,
demarcating the property? No.
yes,
No.
yes.
What?
Well, let's discuss it first.
okay.
Well,
When you say demarcate, you mean the flags or?
I don't know what, I'm
the
assuming
fence.
these are surveyor's flags.
no, so the
No.
flags are totally separate.
Oh,
The garage, I can't remember the people's names, but their garage is impeded on the cemetery property, and this dates back long before my time.
2016.
Back with Ken Bogren, they had a few different back and forths with
Yep.
the state's attorneys and trying to figure stuff out, and landed on doing a license for them for the garage area, and it was a fence was placed, I believe, behind the garage on cemetery property, but they have now planted on the cemetery side of the
Like-
fence. Those are the plants that
Okay.
these.
And the license just never got done.
The license has never been
And
finished.
the license is only for the structure, not for the fences.
Yep.
Right, now the encroachment itself is, I believe it's 11 inches, they have a structure, a garage
Yep.
or whatever there is on that. And initially, this goes back 15 or more years to
9.
the initial
Gene
contact,
Hicks came here in 2016.
2016.
I'm pretty sure.
Well.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's
whatever,
been a long
it's
time.
ago.
A while.
And originally, we had talked about a land swap.
2015.
Mhm.
We had talked about a land swap, and they had surveyors out there, they measured and said we could have this many square feet and all that sort of thing. We ran into resistance from the property owners from the very beginning, even though it was their suggestion that we do a land swap. So over the years, when we were getting more and more brief from the owners, we said, hey, look, this is working. Turns out that because the property is land courted, their property is land courted, that it meant additional expense and time and everything else for them to go through the land court to do the land swap. So as a commission, we discussed this and decided, look, let's just keep the cemetery, let's forget the land swap, and we'll take care of whatever it is that we'll do. Now, that brings us to the additional planting that they did on our property. They planted some very tall grasses on the slope going down, which very nicely blocks their house from our cemetery, I think, anyway. And so the suggestion came about, I think it's Lee, who suggested we should cut right down to the property line and the heck with them, let them suffer. Apparently their issue was they didn't want to look out their windows, it was expensive.
We offered up a solution, they didn't like it, so we're gonna maintain our property.
I know we haven't fully discussed it, but I'm leaning towards it. I would like to vote on that at some point, but Lee would.
Well, all right, I'll put that on. Well,
Yeah,
all right.
and so we need input from the real estate specialists.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm
You will get it
suggesting,
at some point, yeah. So
I'm
so-
suggesting that when we mow, you're gonna get grief.
So tell me how, okay, so Alan, you were explaining chronologically, when did the license come off? This was after that, or
Just
what point?
within the last year. Tracy pursued the land swap
Right.
until she hit, I was gonna
The land
say,
court issue?
yeah, the land court issue. And,
Okay, so then
came
she
back
said,
with, we can do a license, it's not gonna require any court action, and it will clean things up. But it would be, the license would be for the structure that encroaches, not for anything else.
okay, so, and I'll of course talk to Tracy. So your understanding is she was proposing a license just for the corner or whatever it is of the structure, the 11 inches.
Yes, it's the back end,
It's
it's
the
the back
back.
wall.
Wow.
So it's the whole back wall,
Right.
those 11 inches over? Okay.
Yeah.
By how wide roughly?
I would say
10, 15 feet,
Okay,
maybe more.
okay,
maybe
okay, so it's a
little more,
garage
15,
kind of
20, somewhere in
garage
there.
15 to 20, yeah.
Yeah.
And the issue of the plantings predates all of that, right? They've been planting there for,
Okay.
despite the fact that Alan very nicely has pointed it out to them a long time ago. And of course, meanwhile, the plants have grown.
And how was it determined that there's this encroachment?
Survey.
Oh,
Okay.
there was a survey and it shows up on we had some official.
Do you have a
document.
plan of some sort?
Yeah, we had a plan that shows that's how we knew it was 11 inches.
Okay,
They have now an additional garage, which is right smack on the borderline, right
Yeah,
on the property.
but there's another piece, there's another thing that's 11
Yeah, and
inches.
then of course their septic is,
Yeah,
So their structures are non-conforming to zoning, and their comment was it pre-existed 1972, therefore it's legacy.
that was,
okay.
anyway.
So the
that-
concept was a license that would cover their 20 feet by 11 inches.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was it. So,
I think Alan is actually feeling positive about the plantings, whereas Lee is saying.
Yeah, so I'm getting that impression, but
Good,
that's,
good.
I'm trying to separate it for the moment.
yeah,
Were they going to pay for this license, or were we just going to give it to them? Was there any
That's
discussion about
unclear.
that?
That's
That was
unclear.
That's something Stacy.
And again,
Yeah.
Barbara's saying we should do this formally, and I agree with her. But prior to that, as part of the discussion, I would say we don't pay for anything. And if they don't want an encroachment letter, they need the license.
Yeah, so, okay, so that's the structure, and I will, again, I'm gonna talk to
Yeah.
Tracy, because,
If I'm pretty sure it shows up on the GIS.
Yeah, that's trickier. I mean, I'll
Well,
want to
it-
see,
it-
but there's some plan out there. You're
There
saying.
is.
Somebody got a
Yeah,
survey or a
there's
plan
definitely a plan.
that shows it really.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. So, and I don't want to encourage you to go any further with discussions on plantings, but you're saying there's also things beyond this structure that are on the
No, it's
cemetery
cemetery.
property.
Yeah,
A fence and some plantings.
No, the fence is ours.
Okay, so plantings are.
Yeah.
right. There is no fence along that property.
Isn't there? I thought there was.
Even if there was, it would be along the septic line. I can't picture a fence.
Okay.
So there's
Anyway,
some
so it-
tall grasses there.
Right.
that-
So the issue was that, this was, it's again, a number of years ago when we were still discussing the land swap, all this sort of thing. They went ahead and planted these nice tall grasses, and I think there are a couple of other plantings that they put.
There's more than just grasses.
There's a hill, there's some sort of contour to the land.
Yeah,
It
it's,
dips.
It dips down towards the cemetery.
No,
it
towards
goes
our house.
No, towards.
toward their
It's our
house.
Okay.
Yeah, the cemetery is much higher. I would say the
If
elevation.
you want to take a trip, I'm
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, so the building though, there must be some flat area there.
Yeah.
Oh, it dips down and then there's it's the old Pulpus School.
Okay,
It's historic.
so how far removed from the building did they plant the?
Oh,
Bush
it's
is-
5, 8 feet. It's a
Okay,
bit.
so it's a bit,
I would
and
think-
that's part of its
So-
incline.
Yeah.
Again, as part of discussion, when we get ready to make a motion, I think that they, surname is Hicks, should be advised that we're going to do maintenance, and if they want to move their plants, they have a week or some such. I mean, I've been saying cruelly, let's mow the damn thing and be done with it, but
Yeah.
It's only out of
I was going
frustration.
to say politeness says they should be advised.
Absolutely, yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. And I think I would lean towards giving them more than a week. Because there are probably people that have, like, us,
They
have landscape.
have dragged their feet.
For years.
And the attorney came out with us when we were first looking at where the corners might be for the land swap. And he confessed, this is not a high priority for me.
Yeah.
So that's why it hasn't moved.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I say, it's been a lot of years we've been talking about. So to,
So I apologize for taking up time, Alan,
oh,
but
no,
I thought
that's fine.
I thought it was important for item number 4.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I want to add to that as far as the comment about the grasses, okay, which I assume would also count as an encroachment on the property, although frankly, I think that the grasses should stay. And I think that because it does obscure it does obscure the house.
So sort of too low, they can't see the cemetery and we can't see them.
But
But
the
actually,
garage also blocks their view,
Well,
you know.
bye, see you tomorrow.
No,
Yeah.
fairly clearly, once we're ready for a license, we probably should go out there again.
yeah, and make that decision as to whether, because it's on our property, so we presumably have every right to go in there and mow
Yeah,
whatever.
if we go back into the rules for the Historic District Commission, they control hardscaping, they don't control landscaping, and I think we would take the same attitude toward that.
We would take which attitude?
That landscaping would be a question of negotiating politeness. But it'd be between the two of us, because it's not probably a legal issue.
No,
Landscaping is probably not deemed an encroachment.
oh, no, and I totally agree with that. I mean, I think,
However, it is our land and we choose to.
You know, and there may be a time in the future when we do need, I know it's not the best land, to have a burial there.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing that says at any future point because it's our property.
Right, but if we allow plantings that become very mature and have deep roots, and then it becomes exponentially more difficult.
Yeah.
Easier to take it out earlier.
I would interject that landscaping is an encroachment. We actually fight it all the time with people encroaching on town right of ways, with roads and plantings that obscure line of sight. It's something we often deal with. And the usual,
Thank you.
well, the usual form is the encroachment is identified. The real estate office double checks it, then you usually send a letter. And for lack of better term, says you can have your people do it,
Yeah.
or we will do it, and
Yeah.
it will not.
No,
very nice.
Alan and I from Roads and Right of Way are familiar with the encroachment policy. And there's something about an encroachment committee. And I asked Ken Bogran, I said, who's on the encroachment committee? And he said, I think I am.
So where are we at for now?
Well, okay, so anyway,
Rob is aware of the issue. And,
So we're leaving it for this week. We're not gonna do anything
We're
today.
asking for information about progress.
Yeah, and what I'm gonna do is talk to
License.
Tracy about the
Right.
license issue, because again, I think whatever the intention is in that area, that it's probably better to engage the neighbors,
Yeah.
one step at a time, or in a way that's,
But let's,
you know,
let's not let this
let's-
go on for more years.
well, again, all I'm saying is if you're looking to, negotiate a license with them, we may wanna
I think
move
that,
slowly on other
I agree with
efforts.
you there, but I think they're the ones who want the license because they're encroaching.
Well, I don't think,
They're hoping
well,
nothing happens.
yeah, I mean, again, I don't know the history,
Yeah,
but,
well.
they may be happy with the status quo. And the fact is, we just have to have that engagement, like on any other issue involving the town.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and I think, trying to just, I would encourage, again, isolation, keeping the issues as simple as possible. And again, I'll talk to Tracy McDonald about her, what she spoke with this commission about, and a little more of the background, and if there's been any engagement to date with them, which I don't know. So I need to follow up.
I would maybe suggest that the commissioners visit the site, and then maybe put it on a future agenda for an official vote on the landscaping materials, as it seems to be split right now a little bit. So when we have a full
Right.
quorum,
Yeah.
take an official vote, then we can make a stance whether they be removed, and we could probably then at that point include that in the license letter.
Right, the licensing agreement, if it ever manifests itself, is to their advantage. I mean, it's
Yes.
not really to our advantage to have, other than, I mean, because we know that's our property and we can.
Right.
Within reason, do,
Okay,
but
so,
at this point, we have no need for that area for burials. And I think I don't project any need, at least in my lifetime, for any additional space that we might
Yeah.
utilize down there. And as I say, I think that having the vegetation down there actually this is just strictly my.
Well, I think
personal-
that's why Charlie's suggestion of all of us going out and checking
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
and so just a very quick aside on open meeting law. If we go on a field trip and observe but reserve decisions for a meeting, it's a field trip and it doesn't need to be posted. If we choose to vote there, then we have to post it.
But, yeah, I'm about ready to leave, so
Right.
I don't think we're gonna get all together. I
My suggestion
I
would be
think we can all go out
To visit
individually.
it independently,
Okay,
and then have the formal vote in our next meeting.
Right here.
As an agenda
Right.
item.
Yeah, as I say, there's no, it's been going on for all these years now, so, anyway. It would be nice to get it resolved one way or the other, but, I think the most important thing at Pulpus is to get the additional lots finally in the ground, so we have another. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on Pulpus Cemetery, item number 4? Any other comments?
I uncovered a big stone. I turned over a big stone.
A big stone.
Stone.
What you have the big stone of the license agreement.
I see, okay, great,
Lots of things crawling underneath the big stone.
great. Next item, historic colored cemetery. The film screening at the Dreamland and YouTube availability.
And thank you, Fran, for the email.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I was amazed to walk into the auditorium and see how full it was. I
So
mean,
it was so poignant, and if, after a contentious town meeting, I just felt it was like a love fest.
Yeah, it was.
You know, it was really,
And it really gave the
Wonderful.
townspeople, I think, a sense of the history of the colored cemetery, which is exactly what the whole film was designed to do.
I got a call today from someone who works in the town clerk's office, and she said she and her husband walked up there and with a different eye just a couple of days ago. And
Exactly, yeah.
Friday, I went on a Linda Loring walk, and a couple of women who were there said they had purposely taken a walk up Prospect Street towards the old mill in order to see
Yeah.
Windsor Cottage now that they knew the story.
Yeah.
You know, I've been getting comments from people. I wouldn't even have expected to have been there. Like I told you about Clyde's taxi.
Yeah.
I was getting into my car and Clyde's taxi comes by and he slows down and he's got customers in the car and he slows down to say to me, "Hey, that was a great film."
And his wife stopped me a couple days later.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Good for you guys.
yeah. No, it's been really wonderful. It really has been. And
Well, I'd like to say, I sent everybody, I think, the times that Nantucket Community Television plans to air it. They're going to show it 5 times at the end of the month on their channel 8. And then May 29th, it goes live on their YouTube channel.
Mhm.
And I've been letting people, particularly people off island who want to know.
Yeah.
But these are some other things I've done. I was in touch with a woman named Meadow Dibble, who's in charge of Atlantic Black Box, and she's already acknowledged. So they know about it and we'll go forwards. I contacted the Black Cemetery Network and I didn't get a formal acknowledgement from them yet. However, I got a personal note. In Texas, there is a black cemetery at Sugarland, which was something like Imperial Sugar Company or something. It's now a residential area. And there is a black cemetery there. And it's been researched and they've had to put a very high wall all the way around it because of vandalism. So I expect I will continue to be in touch with the people.
And I have, I know, are you gonna tell us other events? Because August 2nd, Dreamland has a children's group led by Sassy, whose last name I've forgotten. And she's arranged to have the film shown then to those kids, and I'm gonna be.
Which school is that?
It's not, it's the Dreamlands,
Oh, okay.
something to Dreamlands.
didn't
I don't
know
have
that
any
that was-
details.
I talked with Dr.
Well, I didn't know the others either, so.
I talked with Dr. Mimi King today, and in the fall when things calm down, she's in the meantime going to talk with the Nantucket Cottage Hospital, and something we've talked about before, to have a mobile monitor that can be in different places in the hospital at different times. And if Barbara too, to the extent she has time, if we work with Mary Novissimo to create a segmented version of the film with a menu so that people can choose which segment or segments they want to watch. And then it's on this mobile kiosk. They can have it, for instance, in the room where people are undergoing dialysis. They can have it, she said, in the quiet corner of the cafeteria. So she's very positive about it, and while we're all busy in a way, she's going to approach Nantucket Cottage Hospital about it.
Sorry, who is this?
Dr. Mimi King, Koehm,
Dr. Mimi,
Mimi, Koehm.
thank you.
So at some point, I'll talk with Mary Novissimo about this because she told me that it would be very easy to do this. And so, you know, the idea is because the hospital is just adjacent to the cemetery, they have an interest in telling people what they're seeing.
Exactly.
And they have people who are, you know, waiting for colonoscopies and all of those things which
Exactly.
they could, you know.
So then I heard from Paul Sanderson today, and he's asking about possibly approaching PBS in Boston. He doesn't actually know anybody there, but he thinks if we could create a 30-minute version of it.
And they've shown my video, Rock of Changes,
Many
repeatedly,
times.
many times, so
So we might hear
I
from
might
them.
have a contact, I don't know if he's still there.
Paul is very anxious for this to be seen beyond.
Okay, so Sanderson is our videographer?
Yes. And then for the Whaling Museum, I don't have a date yet. However, I have been in touch with Suzanne Dome about when we have a date for the Whaling Museum, the week that it's going to be shown there, having a story in Yesterday's Island. So Paul's going to send her a link to the film, and I'm going to find out from Niles Parker a date. And then I think we can expect coverage in Yesterday's Island.
Good.
So by the way, did people see the funny little note in last Thursday's Inquiring Mirror?
You mean the one that juxtaposed it against the movie Sinners?
Yeah,
Yeah, which I saw last night. Don't bother
Yeah.
unless you like vampires.
no, but I thought it was really funny because we had been in touch. First of all, I think it was in January, the Inquiring Mirror got in touch with us when we were making it, and Kendall Graham wrote a story. Then I got in touch with the Inquiring Mirror as we were coming up to the premiere, the May 4th premiere, and I said, can we get something into the paper the Thursday before this so people know about it? So Kendall wrote another story. I had no expectation that it would be mentioned again the week
I
after.
know.
I thought that was a cute
Hilarious.
little note,
It
and
was
you know,
nice.
they did thank us.
Yeah, it was nice.
They thanked us for doing what we did and juxtaposed our nonfiction film with Sinners,
With
which
vampires.
they said it was a surreal juxtaposition.
Well, I think overall the project is really well done, you know, and the fact that it brings attention to the cemeteries and the maintenance of the cemeteries and you know, people's
It was
awareness.
only
of
positive.
the
There was
town.
nothing negative about it at
Yeah,
all.
I know. I
Oh, and the Dreamland does plan to show it again on the main screen in the fall. First of all, Josh White was great. Josh Gray was talking about in September, but now he's thinking the first weekend in October. That used to be Arts Week on
Yeah.
Nantucket.
Yeah.
And Arts Week seems to have fizzled,
Hmm.
but that's what he's thinking. And so
well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
And
I
we'll,
think, you know, it's just so wonderful to have her on that biggest of big screens.
Yeah.
Great.
To me, it just looked like a different film.
I know. I was very impressed with it as well. So anyway,
Thank you,
well
everybody.
done. Well
Okay,
done.
so
I think-
just very quickly on updates, the lane alongside the hospital originally wanted to move out into the park, the Mill Hill Park, which would of course cut into the cemetery as well. And no, that was a no-go. The compromise was that the way, which was deemed an unnamed way, owned to the center line by the abutters, which are the town of Nantucket and the hospital. There was a conveyance approved in town meeting for the town to convey its portion of the way. So it's now all hospital, but the fence has never moved. The fence alongside there has never moved. So the way is now entirely the hospital. Their quid pro quo, their compromise to all that was that what had been deemed to be ambulance waiting area would be parking for the hospital. And they would create and landscape a gate.
Part of
But
the
they're
cemetery.
parking for the cemetery.
It was originally for an ambulance, and then they changed the
For the
designation.
cemetery, though.
For
not
the cemetery.
For a cemetery.
And it took us a while to get them to deal with things like wheelchair access and a little bit of landscaping, but it's all done.
that-
Actually, the wheelchair access from that disabled parking place to the cemetery needs some maintenance.
Okay.
It would be very hard for a person in a wheelchair to traverse it right now because it's got moss growing in it. And, I don't know who to talk to about that. But
Well, again, this was another project. It was a sort of joint project with Roads and Waterway Committee. We negotiated with the town and the hospital to get them to set us, because that's why they had that entrance gate at the end of the sidewalk there. And
So
by
who's in
those,
charge of keeping the path up?
Hmm?
So who's in charge of keeping the path up?
well, the cemetery, because it's our property. If
the
it's-
path from the parking lot into the cemetery? I
Well,
think that belongs to the hospital.
The cemetery bound is
Yeah.
all fenced.
Right, but where we have the handicap parking area,
Yeah.
that belongs to the hospital.
Yeah.
That
And
part,
then there's a path that's outside the fence that goes
It's
from
probably,
that
Oh,
parking
that's-
area around and in. And that's what is getting overgrown with moss and probably wouldn't be navigable by somebody in a wheelchair.
Is that coming in from, no?
it's coming in from the paved way.
Where we park behind the hospital. Where we
Yeah.
would have someone with a wheelchair if they were going up to the cemetery for a
So
service.
it's not the North Mill Lane.
It's by the daffodils.
Really
Right.
parking there. Yeah,
Well,
but which was originally going to be ambulance parking, right?
But the sidewalk goes from where the ambulance park, or it's actually not ambulance parking, it's
Right.
the parking for the.
Right, and
access
that's
to
the
the
part that
hospital.
needs to be maintained. We're just asking who is in charge of keeping that navigable by a wheelchair.
I would assume it's the hospital.
If it's on hospital property, it would be the hospital, indeed. I'm just trying to envision, there's the path that comes in from Vesper Lane is on land bank property. but
Yeah, no,
that's a
not that
whole-
one.
The land bank,
That's a difficult
That's-
question because we the town conveyed our rights to the way. I'm not sure we conveyed a lot of extra land. In other words, what is the layout for that lane? It may just be the paving,
it could very well be, I mean,
in which case it's the town's
Yeah.
obligation.
yeah, exactly. Because when you drive down through Mill Hill,
Oh, but that's not what
That's
we're
not the
talking
where
about.
we're talking
I
about.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Now, so just very quickly, there were questions about what has been surveyed in the historic colored cemetery. And I went through all of the minutes
Hmm.
and produced a timeline. And I'm not gonna go through it here, but I will attach it to the minutes.
right, my question on that, Lee, is that the work with water company predates our minutes by a lot, 2002 would it be. So I contacted Mark Willett,
Right,
and he was not sure. He still thinks Bob Gardner should be the person we ask.
but the water company never owned GPR equipment.
Okay, then that answers it.
Alan's a
Yeah.
commissioner.
Right,
I know they did GPS.
yeah,
And
then that answers it.
it sounds like it's one letter different,
Yeah.
but when you go to the words, it's
Yeah.
ground
Very
penetrating
different,
radar
right,
versus global positioning
Right,
system.
I know that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So now we know.
yeah, it was definitely a survey.
Yeah.
And,
Now, just for our own amusement, Mike Burns, and I have asked Mike if he's got a copy of the report, ordered up a GPR, ground penetrating radar survey on the edges of Quaker Cemetery.
Yes.
And the contractor at that time said it'd work better if we can lift the turf. And Catherine Stover went ballistic because she thought the town was going to pave a side path alongside the fence, inside the cemetery. No. They found graves right up to the fence.
Do you remember the plastic skeleton that appeared there?
Okay.
Where are we?
Six.
Yeah,
We're on six.
monument restoration project update. Have we started up at New North yet?
They've started bringing some materials over. I don't know if they've actually started yet. Their LMC is coordinating with a bunch of different projects on the island.
Oh, sorry, you said New North or New Town?
Well, that was for New North.
Well, for New Town, they have brought materials over.
Yeah.
New North is still in the key to be released. There was
Oh,
a foyer.
okay, that's right. We've approved Newtown, and we have let the we haven't.
Yeah, contract is signed for Newtown with LMC. We were holding New North. There was a FOIA request into that whole process that we're making sure that we're all clear of before we release
Right.
New North. So once I get the all thumbs up from Cindy, everything's already entered into the computer and is ready to be released.
Okay.
Once they make sure we're clear of the FOIA.
So good, so good.
That's gonna be I think, New North Cemetery seems to be the one that needs the most help in terms of monument stones and other items in that cemetery. So that'll be, I just think once we get that done, we can all retire. We can leave it to the next generation of commissioners. Okay, anything else on the monument restoration? Right. Newtown Cemetery.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna back you up. On Old North, there was concern about running a GPR through the bear patch.
That's true.
Old North has got a large section of the cemetery with no monuments, and yet we deem it to be filled.
Yes.
And it had come up whether it would be possible to survey that.
Yes,
area.
that's in the works. We are.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yes, I thought we covered that last meeting.
Yeah.
The same company's been contracted. We believe the contract went to select board already.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
Wonderful.
So it's just a matter of them finding the time and space to get vehicles and equipment over here.
And it's Hager Richter. again?
Yes, same company that has worked with us in the past. My guess is it'll be the fall. You know how it is trying to get a vehicle and equipment over the island this time of year.
exactly.
The results will be really interesting to us. I think.
Well, that'll be good. Remember, the town controls 9 cemeteries. And of the 9 cemeteries, we have burial space in 1. Opus, that's the only cemetery.
Oh, we're not going to, I don't think we're going to find any burial space in Old North. But
No.
I'm just curious to see what's under that area.
There
with
would
no
be,
monuments.
maybe
never
they'll
know.
find some stones or something
Yeah.
underneath.
Possible.
Yeah,
Or no, that was,
well, I suspect they were all wooden.
yeah, exactly.
Termites had a field day.
So now we come to Newtown
Okay,
Cemetery.
anything else on that?
On Newtown, are we done with Newtown?
No,
we're
no,
going to
sorry,
Newtown.
sorry.
Number 7.
7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, number 7. Consolidation.
It's up to Bob now.
Well, Tracy's coordinating this with town council. Still waiting on the title to confirm what we have. And the question that I talked to Tracy about, and once that is secured and we establish what the title shows, there will be a need for a plan. We're going to plan a layout
We
plan.
know that.
Do you have funding for such things? How do those normally happen?
We have
So that's something we can
have some
coordinate.
funding.
Okay.
We've got, DPW has a very small working account for the cemeteries. And then we've got funding from the community preservation program.
Okay.
There are actually 5 different funds that have accumulated over the years. Some of them are very hard to access.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
But
yes,
I think Charlie is really on top of what we can access,
yeah,
what we can access. and what we can't.
Okay.
We've had a very thoughtful lecture from Brian Turbot about where all the money is.
right.
Money's not an issue.
Okay.
Council is the barrier.
I'll take it.
We could always put forward, again, if we, once New York Cemetery goes to bid, we'll know what we have for remainder of funds from our previous CPC grant.
Yeah.
We could always evaluate that,
No, it's not.
estimate what our needs might be, and always approach them for design.
Yeah.
And other funds for, should we need it.
So there's 2 parts of the answer to your question. The first part is whatever is required to record a deed, we can do.
Yep.
But if we need to do a full-scale layout and design for visitors, for new burial lots and so forth, that may take more cash. But by then we'll own them.
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
talking, again, my understanding from Tracy is we're, she's first focused on what is the layout that we can establish. And then that needs to be conveyed.
So,
And then there's other, and I know this group is talking about
so there's
things
some,
beyond that, but that's how I've been
So
viewing
there
it.
are some
from talking to
simple-
Getting the
Tracy.
ownership.
Yes, but first determining what the title shows us.
Exactly.
so there's some simple and obvious answers to your question.
Yep.
As the common and undivided land of the town and county of Nantucket, the cemetery has never been recorded.
Right, which is
However,
why we're here.
All
in a
of the
way.
land around it has, so there are monuments in all the corners. But those monuments are from the neighboring lots. So we can find the monuments. Meets and bounds, we can find the
Yep,
4
yep.
bounds. I can also show you the 1913 assessor's map with boundaries that are within a foot of what we have today in the fence. That's over 100 years old.
And if the place has been used as a cemetery for 100 years, it's a cemetery.
That's according to state law.
Yeah.
So-
Well,
Which is
I
why-
think lawyers other than I are, just concerned about people coming out of the woodwork and
Yeah,
There
making
is,
claims and
there is,
risk and
there is a
exposure.
confusion. In 1834, the proprietors did an offset from the common and undivided lands of the town and county of Nantucket to Mr. Coffin for 10 grazing rights, 10 cattle grazing rights.
Yeah,
Grazing rights had value in those days.
sure.
Somewhere around 1997, 1998, the town was advised that that offset came from within the cemetery. And that's what's causing all the confusion. I assert that it is not. Because the 1913 map would have recorded that offset.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
but not aware.
But the lawyer wants to save the town any
Yeah,
any possibility.
Yes.
of liability.
yes.
So,
Roads.
yeah,
All right, so another long-term project, but
Yes.
again, we have
Yes.
people on.
Yes,
Really,
and I'm not doing the work, so I'm just a messenger.
We just want to put
we
this to
appreciate it
bed.
though. We do.
No, I know,
Well-
we're working on it and.
Yeah, I know.
Again, and at some point, Tracy will, confirm, this is exactly where we are, this is exactly what we need, but if it sounds like, as we're moving through the process, we'll be able to talk to Charlie about funding and for getting whatever,
Exactly.
because to do a conveyance formally, we will need a plan, need a layout, even though it's pretty
Exactly.
obvious to folks, but those are all the steps.
So regrettably, in 1838, Mr. Coffin fell over dead.
So he can't answer the question.
And he was intestate. His widow went with a group of people to the probate court and got permission to distribute his estate. By the way, it was a time of economic deprivation.
Yes,
It
it
was
was.
a deep recession. And so she sold his land, or the
Yeah.
offset, to the Myrick family, which at one time was principals on Nantucket. And if you look around the Newtown Cemetery, there are dots of land that were Myrick and
Okay.
Backus. Holly is or her husband,
Yeah.
is a descendant of that same family.
So anyway, it's a lot of history.
Lot of
which
Yes,
is one
a lot
of
of
the fun
interesting
It's
things about,
complicated.
Yes, it does.
it's one of the fun things about being in the cemetery.
You betcha.
So,
Okay.
moving on to number 8.
I think we've done,
We did a,
we did 8. I've just
Oh,
written
right.
down that a work order is in
Yeah,
place.
Charlie.
Okay, great.
Charlie
For the
got
fencing.
rid of it.
All right. And 9, thoughts and discussion regarding the future of the commission.
Right, I just want to say this will be my last meeting in person. And I probably will not be at the June meeting because I will be hiking in Ireland
Oh.
and I will not have Zoom.
So you're
And
going to
so-
go to the bugs, are you?
I'm going to the Dingle Peninsula.
Oh, Dingle.
That's
With my daughter, and it's very daunting. But at any rate, I'm hoping that we have applications for
Okay,
my spot.
if,
I actually, I think you will. I noticed in the newspaper that the town was saying, now if people are interested in serving on committees, commissions, et
Mhm.
cetera, now is the time to
the
do it.
deadline is Friday,
The deadline is Friday.
Yeah,
the 16th.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know.
I didn't know that, but anyway, I think that the people who are interested in filling your position know that they have to.
Okay, so
Do they know it's the
Jason
16th?
Jason Fingers, she's been attending, she should know.
Yeah.
Whether Amelia Holmes or Michael
Okay.
Michael
Harrison.
Harrison,
Yes,
No.
and
Anyway,
they're all
Yeah.
great.
yeah, we need them.
Yeah.
My predecessor was the archivist for the NHA, which is why,
Georgian,
why we have so much good information in the NHA website.
absolutely.
okay.
All right,
She will
so
work with me with the kids on the historic colors.
have you heard anything from any people at the NHA, from either Amelia or?
Michael Harrison. No, we have not. I haven't. Have you? The NHA,
About,
the
About their interest in
in joining the commission.
joining?
well, I believe they were informed, they have the form that they need to fill out. They may not know about the deadline, but with your permission, I might remind them.
by all
Oh,
of
yes,
that.
yeah.
By all means.
Yeah, like, including Jason. Let's make
Yeah,
sure we
right,
cover-
If it's all right with everybody, I'll just send them a reminder.
Okay, no, that's
That would
fine.
be a good idea. It's not, you don't need our permission.
No.
Well,
You have our blessing.
the question is, conducting meetings according to open meeting law.
Yeah.
I think actually I do have to ask if it's okay to do that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
shall we vote?
I'm
We
sure.
have another couple of things for the final item there where it's.
We'll do another business.
Oh, another business. One is,
So we're done with the future?
I think the future, I think we're
You
done.
fixed it, you took care of it.
Item number 10, old, new, other business and final
So-
comments.
Barbara is not going to be here for the June meeting. I am, but I won't be here for the July meeting because I will be so many time zones away that I just can't zoom in for it.
Hmm.
So I'll be here for June, I'll be here for August, but I won't be here for July. Scotty is not here today, but Scotty is going to be here for the June meeting, and then he's going to present to us what he would have done today if he could be here, which is some information about a potential monument
Mhm.
for Absalom and Hannah Boston. He's going to have suggestions for designs and what it would cost. So we will have a quorum, because Scotty and I will be here, and Lee, you'll be there,
Of course.
and Alan, so that won't be a problem in June. The other thing is, once again, I've had a query from a member of the public about all that area in the Quaker Cemetery with no monuments, and once again, I explained. But You know, we were talking about putting a sign over on, I think it's Saratoga Street, where people come into the cemetery.
It's there.
It's Vesper.
No, it's not Vesper Lane. Oh, we're talking about the Quaker Cemetery.
Will be the southeast corner.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Ray installed it a few months ago, and right next to where the walking path is, where when you come off of Quaker, there's a couple sections of split rail fence and all the brush, and then there's an opening, and right there's a sign on the post, and now it says this entire. I forget the language we chose, but there's a sign, a very official sign that says this whole area is a cemetery.
I am so happy. I will go look at it because the person who brought it up on Sunday, said, what's all this open land? And apparently he was dealing with some other group of people. So, good, the sign is there. That seems to be where people come in. I'm delighted to hear that.
Fran,
Check that out.
is there any interest in going through town records and figuring out who the 5,000 burials actually are?
Barbara and I have talked about doing that because the NHA has the death records for the Nantucket meeting. It's just that neither one of us has had the time to sit down with them, but it should be a pretty
Maybe
simple thing.
next winter.
Yeah, I think so. It shouldn't be a
And I can
difficult
park in
thing year
town.
by year to see how many people who were members of the meeting died. Because what they did was they just buried people wherever there was a new person to be buried, they buried it next to the freshest grave and they just kept going. So,
That'd be fun to do.
yeah. Okay, so that's a project for the future.
Good, great.
Is there any other business to come before the commission this afternoon?
We did a lot.
We did a lot,
We did.
and thank you.
Being none, I declare we are at the end of our agenda. The meeting is adjourned.
Hey.
Wonderful.
And I just want to add that I'm gonna sometimes be a visitor.
Oh, wait a minute.
You're more than welcome because it's a public meeting.